After Congress passed its 1971 and 2002 campaign finance reform laws, the court did have a chance to weigh in on these laws. And overall, the court has consistently held that money is speech. Why do they say that? Well, because if you donate to a candidate, that is like saying you're supporting the candidate, right? That makes sense. A donation to a candidate is, in essence, speaking your support for that candidate, or an issue, as the case may be. Now, if speech is protected by the First Amendment, then that means donations to candidates would be protected by the First Amendment protection of free speech. So the court has basically said that campaign donations and campaign spending are protected by the First Amendment. Now, we know that the First Amendment does not perfectly protect your right to free speech. There are times when the government can limit speech. And the court has said that the government is allowed to have reporting requirements and contribution limits on money donated to campaigns. So that means that when you donate money to a campaign, you can only donate a certain amount of money, and the campaign is required to collect certain information from you, like your name and occupation. Why? Why is this allowed? Well, because it serves a clear government interest in preventing corruption and in preventing even the appearance of corruption. Because by limiting the amount of money any individual can give, it limits the ability of an individual to sort of buy a candidate. And if we limit it enough and we're clear enough about where all the money is coming from, it makes it much more obvious that there isn't any corruption, because we're being open about these things, so we reduce not only the ability to corrupt politicians, but even the appearance of corruption. Now, the court did say that limits on how much a campaign could spend are unconstitutional, because that would interfere with political speech. Why? Why is that the one that interferes? Well, because candidates might say, if they have a set amount of money, they might try to save it all towards right near election day, right? They want to make sure people are aware of who they are, and they want to make sure that memory is fresh when they go to vote. So they're going to save the money towards close to election day. But what if you're running and you're saving all your money towards close to election day so that you can make sure people are aware of who you are and ready to get out and vote on election day? But then all of a sudden, your opponent runs an attack ad against you early on, before you've allocated any money for political television ads. But now you have to defend yourself. Do you have the money to do it? Now you have to make a decision. Do I spend money now to defend myself and potentially sacrifice the spending that I wanted to do closer to the election to sort of tell the public about myself, right? What do you do? Well, that is basically limiting your speech. If you can't speak at both moments, your speech is limited. So that's why spending limits were declared unconstitutional, but donation limits were considered constitutional. Now, this may actually, increased spending in campaigns may actually possibly be good for democracy, in that it increases sort of what you hear. It increases the information you get as a voter. So the court said, not only can we not limit speech because spending because money is speech and we can't limit speech, but also this might actually be good for a democracy. Whereas donation caps are good for democracy because they limit the appearance of corruption, spending caps may decrease political knowledge and therefore be bad for democracy. Now, in Citizens United, which was the decision was handed down in 2010, that one basically said that the government also couldn't limit soft money expenditures. So in Buckley versus Vallejo, they said the government can't limit individual campaigns and how much they spend. And then in Citizens United, the court said we also can't limit how much independent expenditures are spent, right? When PACs spend their money, for example, or when even dark money groups spend their money. This is all unlimited because, again, we want to encourage democratic speech and free speech in elections. Now, Interestingly, Citizens United, when it first was handed down, there was a lot of, oh no, what's it doing? Like, will it just mean corporations will, like, take up all our political speech now? Not so much, because for the most part, corporations are much more interested in making money than they are in influencing elections. And one of the groups that took advantage of this ruling first was actually labor unions. Now, that's shifted a little bit in the more than a decade since, but that was sort of the biggest beneficiary of Citizens United, at least up front.